Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with your mostess. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, last week was the 4th of July, and a lot of crazy stuff happened here at the house, but I'll get into all that in a few minutes. But so where did you go, and what did you'll understand when I tell you. So, where did you go, and what did you do over the 4th of July? Because you were out of town for the 4th, correct?
Yep. I went back to Amish country to hunt Bigfoot.
Oh, cool. And did you see Bigfoot or have any experiences with Bigfoot
not
like
yet,
you did last
not
time?
yet.
Ah,
I did not have
cool.
a Bigfoot experience this time.
Yeah, well, that's a bummer. No weird knocking noises, no large rustling sounds in the brush or anything like that?
Not this time. It kind of rained when everyone was there, so we couldn't go out one whole day. By the time we did get out there, it was like, so there was other issues because there were basically beavers who created a dam, and then so the lake was flooding, so that was a whole thing. I know the beavers, and then they cleared the beaver dam, and then the beavers came back, and then they shot one of the beavers. I don't know, it was a whole thing.
Oh my god, that poor little beaver went into
I even asked him, I was like, well, isn't there like a shelter or something, like an animal rescue, and they can like bring them somewhere else?
Yeah,
yes, rehome to real nature where they aren't gonna cause damage.
Or a park that maybe, you know what I mean? That's
that would be okay with them.
Right.
But then they all just said, we don't do that around here. We just shoot them with a gun. I was out in the country.
I was going to say, it sounded like you're in the middle of a deliverance movie, but hey.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. That was a dumb question, apparently.
You don't mess with menfolk and their guns, Kara.
No. And then they were like, the body just fell back in the water. I'm like, you just left it in the water? Poor beaver.
Aww. Now
they're just doing their job.
See their dead friend. Ew.
Yeah, I was like, sad. Gross. That water's probably gonna be nasty.
Ew, right? With the decomposing beaver.
So
hopefully nobody drinks from that.
Well, here's the thing: when they got rid of the beaver dam, the water drained probably a foot or two.
Really? Wow.
So then it was
insane.
so low that the fish were hiding because they didn't want to come out. Wow. So Brandon was having issues catching fish.
That's crazy though.
He did eventually start catching them again, but
that much damage just from building their.
I know.
Dam.
It was
damn
a whole
beavers.
thing. I know those dang beavers.
Well, that's okay.
Dam.
So on the 4th, the dog Fritz and Lucy. Well, Lucy's deaf now. We have 2 dogs, by the way, in case nobody knows.
She's deaf?
Well, yeah, pretty much. So the fireworks did not bother her. Normally, this dog is scared of everything.
Yeah, she's scared
Thunder,
of fireworks.
Any loud noises, she freaks out and hides, in a room or underneath a bed. Well, she didn't do that this time, because apparently, she can't hear very well, so that was a good thing. But unfortunately, Fritz went off the deep end and was freaking out and crawling up everybody and crawling underneath Sam's bed. And he ended up freaking out so bad that he ended up peeing all over my closet on a bunch of clothes in there. And then he went on Sam's bed and peed all over it. And Sam's our youngest child, and Sam has a one of those new foam mattresses, or the new ones you can get, the gel foam mattresses. And normally an old mattress we could have cleaned it and what would have been fine, but the foam mattress just sucks that right up, and it was stinking, so we had to get him a new mattress. Well, that turned into a whole debacle because I didn't measure the mattress, thinking I knew what size we had ordered last time we got a mattress. So I spent $150 on a mattress that is the wrong size for his bed. I mean, it was the right queen size, but it wasn't thick enough. It was so bad when the poor kid lays on it, he can feel all the rails in his bed frame. And I'm like, oh my God. So Dad was like, well, we can't just let him lay on that. And I'm like, well, we could take the old mattress, put it underneath. I'll buy a plastic protector for it, so it doesn't stink up the room or anything, or get bad, and then we can just put the new one on top of it. And Dad's like, no, just reorder another one. So I had to reorder another one, but the new one came within like 2 days because it happened on the 4th and we got it by Friday. Well, the new one, I guess because I ordered on Amazon and with Amazon Prime going up, they are not sending it to us right away. So we have to wait until next Tuesday for the poor kid to get a new mattress. In the meantime, he's still laying on the other new one we have.
Oh my goodness.
So what I wanted to know is, do you and Mario need a new mattress? It's a queen, because obviously we're not going to use it. Unless he just throws the old one on top. The new one.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Does it make sense? So I have...
Well, I don't...
What size is yours?
We have a full-size bed.
Okay. Well, this one was short on Sam's bed. It didn't go the full length of it. But, you're more...
Why did it not go the full length? That's weird.
Because that's the deal with these stupid foam things. I don't know. So anyway... I'm awaiting a new mattress for your brother. I have the old one still here because we weren't sure what we were going to do with it. So now it needs to go out for garbage day tomorrow. So I got to throw that out. I have a new mattress that once the other new one comes, we're going to have to pull the new one off and decide what we're going to do with it. I don't know. I'll see if your brother wants it, I guess. But, so that's been my weekend. Oh, and it gets better. So the day after, this has all happened on the 4th, by the way, the dog getting upset.
Oh my God.
You
peed everywhere.
Yeah. So on the 5th, Sam had some friends over and they were lighting off fireworks because we really didn't do much on the 4th because, it was on and off rain and I didn't want to play the odds. So he got some fireworks and he had some friends over. Well, while the friends were over, everything was fine. The dogs discovered a bunny nest with baby bunnies. So I have the dogs running around the yard chasing baby bunnies, and I have Lucy and Fritz trying to eat them. I have Sam's friends all gathering up all the baby bunnies and petting them and playing with them.
With the bunnies.
I know. Yes, and I was like, guys, no, please don't. I'm like, the mother bunny won't come back, but I researched it. That's not true. So we gathered up the bunnies that we could find because some of them ran off when the dogs started chasing them. So we had to put them all back near their nest so Mama Bunny will come back. Because apparently mom bunnies go out and hunt during the day and they only come back at nighttime. So we tried to make the nest back the way it was, put all the bunnies near it, and then hope for the best. Well, I go out there the next morning. There's a spot in our yard where the grass isn't growing because we had a old thing the kids played on anyway. So and there's Lucy out there, and she's nuzzling something with her nose. And I am like, oh, please no. Please, no. Because I had been taking them out on a leash to go to the bathroom because I didn't want to eat the bunnies. So I go, and Lucy has not learned that bunnies are friends, not
food.
Edible items. Yeah. So I go out there, she's nuzzling the bunny, and I'm like, oh my God. I think it was already dead because there wasn't, normally when she gets a hold of something, there's a lot of blood involved. There was no blood anywhere. I think the bunny died naturally on its own. She either scared it to death.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Because, it couldn't find its way back to the nest. It ended up, there in that spot. So I had to scrape that bunny up, obviously. I couldn't leave it in the yard because I was worried the dogs really would eat it, and I didn't want, to have to deal with them puking up rabbit stuff. So I got rid of it. Well, in the meantime, while I'm getting this one up, all of a sudden I found 2 more bunnies that were out hopping along in the yard. So I had to quickly scoop them up and put them back over by the nest and bring the dogs in before they ate them. Now, the dogs have not bothered them for the past 2 days because I've been watching to make sure, and as soon as they do anything, I quickly bring them in. It looks like the mom has been back to the nest. I don't know if she's moved them, but the damn dumbest thing is that bunny made her nest in the middle of the yard. It's not, usually she does it, out back by the we have a shed. Yeah, that they make their nest, and usually that's where you see all the bunnies come out at night is from the shed. But, or during when it rains and the dogs aren't out. But yeah, this bunny decided she was going to make it in the middle of the yard. I'm like, why? What is going on with this bunny? So, fingers crossed. So far, we've only lost one bunny.
The bunnies.
The rest of them, I think are all right. From Lucy, the bunny eater, and Fritz, who, would chase it around the yard forever and a half if he could. So that's where we stand on the bunny situation. So that's been my week this week, okay? It's been a little crazy around here with animals. I'm telling you, I'm done with animals for a while. So, anyway, so you want to tell us Kara, when she was there, her friend's grandfather right?
Yeah,
It's
it was her grandfather.
correct? That the property that they're been staying at actually had an encounter with Bigfoot, and I'll let Kara tell you all about that and stuff. And she actually had a copy of his story that was in.
We finally found the copy because I've been trying to find
the
story. Because everyone's given me pieces of the story, but no one had the full story.
So now we have the full story.
But we were finally able to find it, and we were able to confirm it was his story. Because we found it actually in a book. It was in a random book.
Been published in a legit book.
It was pretty crazy.
She'll go ahead.
It was published in a book about the whole area and everything. But yeah, so they found my friend's grandfather, but it would have been the person who bought the book for us was
her dad.
The daughter. It was the daughter of it.
So it was
her dad, but yeah,
it was her aunt.
It was her aunt.
The friend's
she bought
aunt,
us a book,
but it was the dad's, the grandpa's.
But they're all related to this person that had the story. And I've heard pieces of the story, but no one had the whole freaking thing. But we finally found the encounter,
and that's why we've never shared it with you guys before. So this is
I talked about how we knew there was an encounter,
but we didn't. We didn't actually talk about it because we didn't have all the hard.
I didn't
facts.
have the whole thing,
and
but we have his account. And they were able to confirm because all it says is unnamed, but there are two things in there that like the way he writes is just very. He has a lot to say about everything. So here we are. So around 1990, I decided to try deer hunting with a bow. Practice until I felt comfortable shooting at a reasonable distance. Finally, bow season had arrived, and I decided one very, very early morning to go out to our woods to get some practice bow hunting. I drive my truck to the southwest corner of our 90 acres in Holmes County and park to continue the last half mile on foot with no light in hand. The 90 acres part, that was confirmed. That's how much land they have.
Wow, that is crazy.
So that's how we know. Well, apparently now they have more, but at the time that this was written, they did have 90.
My God.
That's what I'm saying.
It's insane.
So much woods.
Yeah, wow.
Like I said, they have a lot of woods. That's why I like to go frolic. It just expands. It's so wide, and a lot of it's farmland, but anyways. Parked to continue the last half mile on foot with no light in hand. This is wild that he was walking around here without no light.
Right?
That night, being a new moon.
Scary.
Yeah. The sky was filled with visible stars, and the darkened tree line of the woods was the only thing I could see. I knew that once I made it to the woods, I would have to make my way through the thick blackness by using the north/southeast and southwest stars as my bearings. After a while, I found the tree with my stand, and I had to feel around the trunk for the steps. After locating them, I proceeded climbing the 20 feet to the platform where the stand was waiting for my arrival. Feeling my way into the seat, I took a deep breath and thought, finally, I'm in a place that I can relax from the stressful journey of the unknown depths of the dark I just went through to get here. You see what I mean about how he's just like...
he's very verbose.
Very wordy.
Very
wordy.
He likes to talk.
And Leah said that's very true about him, so... All of a sudden, there was a wham on the trunk of the 16-inch diameter tree, throwing me backwards with my head bouncing off the tree. Let me tell you, I definitely could have used a seatbelt up there. Next thing I remember was trying to gather my bearings and figure out what had just happened. Then I heard the rustling of trees and the sound of long-strided bipedal footsteps sounding like thump, thump, thump through the woods, going fast in a south/southeast direction until it had dissipated off into the distance. Being left with only thought after traveling through my recollection of possibilities, this must have been a Bigfoot. They are said to have heavy and large enough legs to have a stepping stride of at least 8 to 10 feet. They must have the perfect night vision so to as not run into the trees in the middle of the forest. What would you think it was? It was in 1990s that records started being kept to show Bigfoot sightings in Ohio, which is ranked 4th in the nation for sightings, which is kind of wild.
That is wild. So that was his own personal account of what happened.
Well, at the end he says, so the moral of the story is be aware of what may be lurking in the dark and never travel alone. And always take your friend Smith & Wesson with you, which was his favorite gun. He basically said, always bring his gun. But yeah, they both said that's absolutely his account. And that's like what they remember from the parts that he would tell. It was way more detailed, too, than what he had, just told, like... in offhand telling people,
Right. What's the name of the book that this
Holmes
was published
County
in?
Hair Raisers is the name of the book.
Really? Interesting.
They basically have a bunch of accounts from just people they would go, like, walk around and talk to people and just get their encounters from the area.
About different things or about Bigfoot?
There was, like, a whole section for Bigfoot in the book, but there was, like, aliens. There was some ghosts, too.
I have to look at that book.
I mean, I read a good
cool.
part of the book, but I definitely highly recommend people reading it. That was just the story that was, like, we knew.
That sounds, we knew of, because we know the person of.
People, I was able to, talk to the people who are related. I know the family.
Yeah, right.
Which is kind of wild. But there's other,
did you ever tell everybody about what, he discovered, the footprint that he got on his property?
It. I don't know. But here's where it gets a little wild. So he worked for the Holmes County Historical Society for 20 years of his life, is what they told me. He not only worked for them and, like, helped them, but he donated lots of stuff to them. So, and that's why, that place actually owns the museum we went to that was haunted, that I went to. So we're also going to talk today on the podcast. The Victorian House Museum.
Uh-huh. All right.
There was just a lot that happened. Even though I didn't get anything too crazy, but so we went, remember that road I was telling you about that we would drive on at night? Because there was a lot of Panther's Hollow?
Yeah.
Well, we went back and we were driving on there again. But we went back during the day, actually. And we were driving up just slowly. And Savannah thought she saw a cool mushroom, so she got out of the car.
Oh, jeez.
And I got out of the car because I saw weird stuff. It looked like people just dumped a bunch of stuff. It was really strange. Like, I found, like, a car seat, like a child's car seat. And some other weird stuff. Okay. And then I got out and I was, like, looking around at it. And I noticed a skull.
Wait, what kind of skull?
Well, so I got Savannah. I was like, Savannah, get over here. You gotta go look at the skull. Because I didn't have, like, clothes to go trekking through the woods to go find it and pull it up.
Guys, just so you know, Savannah actually worked with animals and stuff.
So she's good at identifying them.
Animals. So go ahead.
So then she, like, went up to the thing to, like, get a look at the skull, and she picked it up or whatever. And then we found a second skull right on top of it. They both died there together. It was due to the same animal. Did you find the
rest of the bones, or was it just
she found a few other bones. It wasn't just skulls.
Oh, okay.
But it was very weird, and there was, like, a bunch of there was, like, garbage and stuff around, too. Huh. Like, weird. There was, like, cans, like, kids clearly had been back there mess around.
Of course.
But it was definitely weird to find two, and the skulls were super intact.
What kind of skulls were they? You never did tell us.
Okay, they're coyote skulls.
Oh, okay. So
isn't that weird? Two coyotes? But, like, it's weird for them both to be there, dead.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's very unusual. But its weirdest part is we found another coyote skull.
Where at?
But it was on the property.
Oh, weird.
So we had just seen a coyote skull, and then we went there, and we found two more.
Huh. Is somebody killing the coyotes, or are they dying on their own from sickness?
I don't know, but they were really well shaped.
Want to know.
We actually pulled out the teeth, so now we just have coyote teeth, and we're probably haunted, too, from doing
I was just going to say, oh my god. No, we pulled out... You scream at me for all my things that I do at your house, and you have coyote teeth that you don't know where they came from.
That I pulled out of the skull.
That could be cursed. Oh my god. You know,
I also got its little teeth, too. It's crazy how deep the root of their teeth are.
Really? Huh.
But they popped right out because, like, after you decompose. But they were clean. Yeah. The skull, both of the skulls were completely clean. Licked clean.
Or I was gonna say it looked like they had been dipped in, like, whatever they do to bleach or something. Bleach. They hadn't been bleached.
The one skull, I can send you the photo. I literally took a photo of where I saw it just sitting. It was just, like, sitting up perfectly. I was able to just notice it while I was walking around. Huh. But yeah, we found those skulls back there. Trying to remember if anything else. We went there. Oh, so one night, did I tell you about how we went to the graveyard to go investigate one night? And we watched fireworks.
But you never told me what happened.
We watched fireworks in the graveyard. It was really weird. because of how it was on top of a hill. So we could just sit up there and we could just watch the fireworks from the valley. Cool. It was kind of weird to watch them, but We didn't have
anything happen to you guys when you were in the graveyard or not?
Savannah thought she was hearing sounds, like weird clicking sounds, and she kept being like, "Do you hear that?"
Is it...
But I was like, "I don't know."
Kara's like, "I'm just ignoring it."
I'm like, "I don't know." I had so we had two. We also had a thermal camera this time on our investigations. Mm-hmm. His phone has a built-in thermal camera. Isn't that crazy?
That is cool. That is crazy.
And it has night vision too. I just had the night vision camera.
So you guys didn't get anything then while you were up there?
I mean, I haven't reviewed.
Family grave?
I haven't reviewed it yet.
Oh,
it was the grave with the
or is it a
it's the graveyard with
grave?
The angel with the missing head, and like people who would steal the head would like be cursed and they die.
What? I've never heard that before.
I told this story last time I was there. I remember I talked about Panther's Hollow, and I talked about that too.
No, you know.
And I went to both of those places.
Well, you didn't talk about them last time. So I would have remembered.
Well, anyways.
Okay.
Well, I got some photos and videos of it for you.
Okay.
So.
Well, we'll have to check it out.
And we're talking about. But yeah, so we went to the Victorian House Museum.
Okay. So anything.
So this place was pretty wild. We'll talk about this because this is also haunted.
All right.
Allegedly, you know.
Yeah.
And then the history of this place is pretty nuts. So it was built in 1901 by L.H. Brightman. Well, actually, that was the name of the guy who had it commissioned.
Okay.
He was coming down from Cleveland because he was an industrialist. He built this Victorian-style house for $10,000, which is crazy how little...
That is
I mean, it was a lot of money if you did the conversion, but it just seems so small of an amount. But this person who built it was actually a very famous architect.
Okay.
Fenimore C. Bate was the architect.
Okay.
He also designed some other fancy stuff, you know. So this house has 28 rooms, which is pretty wild. And it's 4 stories. It's 4 floors.
Oh, wow. That is kind of cool.
It's weird for the time. It's the 1901, I think I said. Yeah. It was built.
They wouldn't have... Usually, most of them are 2 stories. Maybe 3, but not 4.
Well, there's the basement, and then there's 3 stories.
Oh, so
it's 4 floors in total. 4 floors in total, which is still a weird for the time.
Yeah,
and it was supposed to be for 6 of the 9 children.
Okay,
still seems like a pretty big house for that many people.
Yeah.
So he only had the house for 2 years. Okay. And then he moved because he outgrew basically business wise Millersburg because it's a pretty small place. And then 1907, a group of local citizens ended up purchasing the house to use it as a sanatorium.
Nuh-uh, stop.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It became a sanatorium.
Oh, that is crazy.
I was like, what? Isn't that weird?
That is strange.
It was only used as a house for two freaking years, and then it became a sanatorium.
And what was the name of it under the sanatorium? All right.
But it didn't go very long. It also lasted like 2 years, I believe.
Really?
I'm trying to find the dates.
Strange.
Oh, so it started up in 1907 and then ended in 1909.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
But it was for, like, women, I believe. So it was a sanatorium for, like, you know, if your wife you're just done with her, send her off to the sanatorium.
Yeah. You know, people men more back then, so they could say anything.
Yes, it was messed up they did that.
Basically in there forever.
It was basically unsuccessful, which no one's surprised by that. But there were just a few photos of it, and they had like a little brochure of it, like being advertised for the time.
That's crazy.
That I was able to look through and look at.
That's crazy.
But this little house, it's beautiful. I'll send you the photos. Like it's like a beautiful house, and you're like, the woodwork, the carpentry is like insane.
Yeah. Really,
like.
Cool.
A lot of the style of so this house, it was actually built with, so each of the rooms where they had lights, they would have electric lights and then they would have gas powered lights in each room. Wow. So the chandelier.
So they had both. So they were pretty rich.
So
they
because
could afford both.
Back in the day, she told me that electricity you only got for certain parts of the day.
Right.
And then it would turn off. So that way they would have 2 options, basically. So it looked so weird because the ones that were up, I think, were electric, and then the ones that were facing down were the gas-powered lights, which was
crazy.
Weird.
Right.
I've never seen a house like that. And the house also has a funeral door, which I didn't know was a thing.
Okay.
Have you heard of those before?
Yeah, because you wouldn't. Leslie, do you remember Leslie, John's Uncle John's old girlfriend? Her family lived in an old funeral home.
Oh.
And I totally forgot about that. And some of the stories she told us were like crazy.
Man. But so like the funeral doors are basically, it's a big enough door that would fit a casket in or out. So because like back in the day, they would just have them in your houses.
Would come right up. Yep. And they would run the carriage right underneath. And you would, the casket would come down the floor and right into the wagon, and they'd take it off for you.
I was like, that's so weird. I've never heard that before. But I guess it's like an older thing.
That is crazy. Yeah.
To see like all of the crazy woodwork of this place.
Oh,
and so this place,
gorgeous.
It was beautiful. I was like, just like but you know, there's always got to be something spooky going on. For that kind of, especially because it was a sanatorium for 2 years.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, and the funeral thing too. I'm sure you had some deaths going on there.
Well, it's just a funeral door, so that they can use
I know,
it.
but that tells you that somebody died, so just anyway.
Well,
all right, so carry
on. So then after that, the Lee family bought the house. Okay. So then they had it for a while. They had it till like most of the life of the house. Until the last occupant, I think it was one of the daughters of the family, died. She lived until 83, and she was not able to keep the house up, basically. So she only lived in 2 of the rooms. She lived in the kitchen and like I think the pantry she kept, and there was a back door, which is crazy. But she lived there by herself, which is, I don't know, it's wild that she only 2 rooms. And apparently they left all of the windows in the upstairs open. So when the people, the next people who end up getting the house, it was just covered in bird poop. Like, the entire upstairs rooms were just completely destroyed by birds. Like, obviously they were able to restore it.
They didn't have bats in there, too.
They probably did. It was just rough.
Oh, I can imagine. That had to have been gross.
So then, the house was put up for auction after she died, and the Historical Society bought the house because they wanted to turn it into a museum, which is what it is now. Mm-hmm. Okay. But then they basically bought it, and they didn't realize this when they bought it, but it had parquet floor. Do you know what that is?
Parquet,
it's like those
floors,
parquet, the wood designs.
The wooden,
all of the floors are like that. You know,
all of them in the whole house. That's crazy. Wow, that's unheard of today. That's like good floors.
Yes, and they literally did not know that until they scrubbed them, and they realized, oh my god, there is like insane woodwork under, and they look beautiful today. I mean, they probably had to bend over backwards for that.
Done on them. Yeah.
Oh, guess how much they bought it for during the auction?
50,000 or more than that, less than that.
No, it was like 12,000.
What? So almost the same price that he built.
It's almost the same price that he built it for. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. Yeah,
this whole place is pretty wild. It's also considered late Victorian, the style. Okay. Because it's not. Right. I think it's like in the later periods of like the Victorian house styles.
Got you.
But I was talking. So they have paranormal haunt nights. So there are like stories about like. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So this is pretty. I didn't even know this was a thing. Have you ever heard of Victorian hair art?
Yes, where they will take the hair of a deceased person and they will, make art with it.
Yeah. They had a whole thing of it there, just like hanging up in it was huge. It was gigantic, and they had it just hanging there.
And you wonder why it's walking by it. There's your answer.
And the lady was like, and this is all made out of human hair. And I was like, what? Oh, pardon?
Oh, my.
And we're like, does it smell? And she said it really doesn't smell that bad. Oh, and there's a boiler in the basement. Like a charcoal. Like, they showed it to us. It's not a part of the tour, but because they were like, oh, we were friends of the people. Oh, and there's also in the museum, there's a photo of my friend's great-grandmother. Really? Cool. There's like a photo of her someone donated.
You have to take me there when I
was like, that's so weird.
Put together. Yeah.
I know, we'll have to go back there. But they have ghost tours and stuff at night.
Do a ghost tour.
Apparently it's pretty haunted. There's apparently, like, a male presence in the basement. That's, like, a ghost male presence.
Is he attached
and
to
some
the
other
furnace,
stuff?
the boiler down there?
Maybe.
Huh.
But I felt, like, pretty uneasy down in the basement.
Really?
It was a little spooky.
Huh.
So, after we did, like, the tour, they were like, oh, if you want to walk around and explore a little bit. So I walked around and explored by myself because I wanted to go, do a vibe check of the place. Right. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And I went back to the basement. They were like, you went back to the basement by yourself? I'm like, yeah. I was trying to see if I'd see anything. There was, like, talks about, like, apparently the ghosts there are very talkative.
Really?
From what I was looking at from their, they have, like, a whole paranormal group for the house, which is kind of crazy. Huh. But they have ghost tours if you're interested in seeing it, learning more about the, spookiness. Like, in October they have, like, a Halloween haunt thing in October.
Yeah, cool.
Where basically you get to stay overnight.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. The whole place.
Sounds like it. So that was your adventure this last weekend last weekend in Holmes County?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, cool.
For now, until we go back.
Yep.
Alright, what is your topic?
I have 2 topics, really. You'll figure out why they're not very long topics. But the first one, interestingly enough, came across on the interweb last week. I don't know if you heard this or not, but apparently entrance to the underworld has been discovered in Mexico. So, yeah, interestingly. The story goes that in 1674, there was a gentleman by the name of Francisco de Burgoa, and he was a Dominican priest. And he shared a story about a group of Spanish missionaries that he had met who had explored the ruins of an ancient church in Oaxaca, Mexico. So the priest claimed that the missionaries had discovered an underground temple or church with a vast system of tunnels and 4 chambers. Now, they said that 3 of the chambers were, your usual chambers that you would find underneath these types of temples, and they were for the high priest and the kings. But the 4th chamber was different, and it had a door that had been carved out of wood that apparently led deep underground, so deep that the ancient people claimed that it went to the underworld, or also known to this particular group of Mexicans as the Layaba. The priest said that once the missionaries figured out what it was and where it went, they sealed the entrance to the caverns, okay? So, now let's fast forward, what is that, the 1600? Let's fast forward 400 years to a couple weeks ago when a group of archaeologists and experts were conducting a study of this particular site, and this site was in Milta, and this is in Mexico, and it was established as a burial site sometime before 900 AD, by the Zapotec people. Now, this site has 5 main buildings, and it includes a church group, is included in these buildings. And one of the churches actually happens to be a Catholic church. There is an entrance to the underworld, and am I the only person that finds the irony in this? The entrance to the underworld, supposedly, is underneath the Catholic church. And the entrance is said to be under the main altar in the Catholic Church. Legends have said for years that it was suspected that to the underworld was hidden under a church, but it wasn't known. The location was not known at that time. So no one has been down into these chambers for well over 400 years. The underworld, in case you aren't sure what that is exactly, was the unseen realm where the souls of the dead would go after they left the world. All things that live beneath the earth reside in the underworld. Now, interestingly enough, when I decided I needed to do, a little bit more research on this because I was curious. There are several entrances to the underworld in different parts of the world. There is one claims to be in Turkey, one claims to be in Greece, and that is where Hades has his is the one in Greece that I found. And there's a couple of other ones, not in Europe, but just like kind of all over. And they're all near bodies of water, which I thought was interesting. But when I was researching this story, I came across the funniest thing. I did not realize this. I thought this was interesting. So in one of the gates or places, and it was also in Mexico, there was another entrance that they said to the underworld. And in this particular entrance, they found an old Mayan canoe that had floated to the bottom of this quiote, which is basically these clear water pools that you can find all over in Mexico. It's just like where there's a giant hole in the earth, and this clear water collects there, and you can go swimming in them, and there's like all kinds of cool thing like fish and artifacts and stuff that are in there. But anyway, they also found like a lady's like heel bone or something, but they found an armadillo skull. And I learned from this that armadillos, get this, can swim underwater. I did not know this. They have the ability to hold its breath underwater, allowing it to cross bodies of water. They will hold their claws on the ground and basically walk on the ground to get to where they're going by holding their breath. Is that not the craziest thing you've ever heard? That is. I didn't realize that. So, yeah. So, also, there was something else that I just wanted to talk about briefly that I thought was interesting because I was curious. So last week, we went and saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, okay? My husband and I are 80s children, so we've seen all the movies, including the bad Crystal Skull one, which probably shouldn't be in the franchise, but whatever. Anyway, so we went to see the new movie because, it's supposed to be the last one, and, you gotta, you've been through them all. My favorite was the Temple of Doom. I know most people hate that one, and they think it's stupid because what person can rip out a beating heart and all that stuff, and I get that. But I was, like 12, 13 years old when I saw that movie, and it was like I thought it was so cool, all the adventures he got to go on in that movie. But anyway, so in the movie, and I don't want to spoil too much and tell you the whole plot of it, that's not what I'm here to do. There was a particular device that they talked about in the movie, and I was curious if it was really true, because how sometimes they make movies and they talk about something and it's not true. So the device they talked about in the movie is called the Antiky mechanism, which was found off the coast of Greece in 1900 by sponge divers. That is a true, legit artifact that is real. So the story goes about the Antiky is that these sponge divers, this is crazy, the story of how they found it. They were diving down there for sponges. A storm came up, okay? And the two divers were down and the rest of the crew was on the ship above the water. So the storm rolls up, it messes up the water, and when the diver that was down there goes to go up to get back out of the water, he swims above this area, and he looks down, and he's like screaming that he sees, there's dead headless bodies down there, there's dead horses down there, and all this crazy stuff, and everybody's like, what are you talking about, dude? There's nothing down there, it's just sponges and stuff. Well, the storm had managed to mess up the seabed, and what they discovered was that there had been a sailing ship from Greece back during ancient times that had a lot of treasure on it and had been lost, and it had been written about in the books and that about this missing vessel. Well, they found it, and what he saw was not dead bodies, it was actually pieces of prized pottery and stuff. And it was like, statues of men and women. So it looked like their heads had been cut off, but really they weren't. They were just statues. But there was also a lot of treasure down there. And one of the pieces that they found was this mechanism called the Antiky. Now, this mechanism that uses complex technology that includes gear wheels, dials, and pointers, it's used to chart the cosmos. Apparently. Now, let's keep in mind, this is back in ancient time, like, when the Greeks were running around and all that stuff. So this thing has been sitting down there for centuries. The first clock that was invented did not get invented until 13th century by the Europeans. So this was like way before that time. But the ancients would use this watch, the Antiky, to predict eclipses. It would track the movement of the sun and moon, and it would even could tell when sporting events like the Olympics were scheduled to take place. And it looked kind of like, it wasn't like a watch, like, and I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to spoil the movie, but it wasn't a watch that, because in Indiana Jones it's portrayed as a watch. It was actually like, it almost looked like a clock, basically, kind of. But it was tiny. It wasn't as big as you thought it would have been. But anyway, it was like the only one that has ever been found made like that. And in the movie, they imply that it was Archimedes, who was like a great mathematician in the Greek world and invented a bunch of other stuff. He was kind of like the inventor, kind of like Da Vinci was, you know, for the modern age. It was not, this particular one was not invented by him. They said it was probably a couple, maybe about 100 years after he was alive. But if you're interested in seeing this artifact, it's actually on display, and you can see it in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, Greece. So, when they talk about the Dial of Destiny in Indiana Jones movie, if you go see it, which I highly recommend you do, I liked it. Sure, there's some parts in there that you're going to be like, what in the what? But it's Indiana Jones, and they always have silly parts that you're just like, what? That can't happen in real life. But, They talk about the style or whatever. Huh. So, it is real. It's just not, what they're claiming it's used for in the movie is not what it was actually used for in real life. That's all. But I thought it was cool that they actually talked about a real artifact that, you know, exists and you can actually go see it. So, that has now been added to my bucket list of things to go see, the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. So anyway, that is all I have this week. Like I said, it wasn't a lot. It was just 2 stories found or come across when I was searching on the internet or whatever.
I got to talk about my adventures in Holmes County.
Yeah, yep. Kara and her Holmes County adventures to be continued.
Yeah, we're going to go back and do an investigation.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
And there's also the hotel in that area is also haunted, allegedly.
Well, there you go. We'll have to go and stay at the hotel.
We can stay the night there.
Yeah, and then go walk over.
And then if it gets too scary, we can go stay with Leah's aunt.
There you go. Go hang out with her.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at 2 Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. All our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these 2 scaredy cats.